Welcome to Live Podcast. As we journey through the Bible, we are officially starting yet another book, and today we're going to do an introduction on the book of Exodus. The book of Exodus is in the Old Testament. It's the next book after Genesis. It has 40 chapters. It was written by Moses according to Life Application Bible Study, and it was written between 1450 to 1410 BC. The location it is in the wilderness during Israel's wanderings, somewhere in the Sinai Peninsula. What is the setting in the book of Exodus? The setting is Egypt. God's people are now slaves, but God is about to set them free. Then what is the purpose of writing the book of Exodus? To record the events of Israel's deliverance from Egypt and development as a nation. And then we're going to see four major blueprints in the book of Exodus. Number one, we're going to see Israel in Egypt, and that is from chapter 1 all through chapter 12. And while there, we're going to see the Israelites were enslaved in Egypt, but God heard their cries and rescued them. And the major topics we're going to see is the slavery in Egypt. We're going to see God choosing Moses. We're going to see God sending Moses to Pharaoh. That's number 3. Then we're going to see number 4, the plagues that strike the nation of Egypt. And then we're going to see the first Passover when the Israelites left Egypt and on their way to the promised land. Number 2, we're going to see the nation of Israel in the wilderness, and this is from chapter 12 all through chapter 18. In the wilderness, the Israelites become quarrelsome and discontent because they were so used to how they used to live in Egypt, and everything was not going as per how they used to live. So they quarreled, they were discontented, and we're going to see that the great Exodus, when they were leaving Egypt all to go to the desert and then to the promised land. And then we're going to see them crossing the Red Sea. And then we're going to see number 3, complaining in the wilderness. This is chapter 12 all through chapter 18. And then number 3, we're going to see the nation of Israel at Mount Sinai. And this is from chapter 19 all through chapter 40. And in Mount Sinai, we'll see that God reveals his law to the Israelites at Sinai. Through the law, they learn more about what God is and how he expected his people to live. The law is still instructional for us, for it exposes our sin and shows us God's standard for living. And all through chapter 19 to chapter 40, we're going to see number 1, the giving of the law. And then number 2, making of the instructions for making the tabernacle. And then number 3, we're going to see the Israelites breaking the law. And then number 4, finally, we're going to see the tabernacle construction. And then finally, we're going to see 5 major themes in the book of Exodus. Number 1, we're going to see slavery. The Israelites were in Egypt for 400 years, just as God had told Abraham in Genesis chapter 15 and verse 13. Pharaoh oppressed them, but God delivered them. Number 2, we're going to see the theme of rescue and redemption. God delivered the Israelites through a mighty showdown of power and through a leader called Moses. Number 3, we're going to see the theme of guidance. God guided Israel out of Egypt using plagues, Moses, and parting of the Red Sea and 10 commandments. So one of the lessons we're going to learn here is, in your life, also allow God to guide you. Number 4, we're going to see the theme of the 10 commandments. This is the 10 commandments contains the absolutes of spiritual and moral life, and it also has 3 parts. Number 1, the 10 commandments contains the absolutes of spiritual and moral life. Number 2, it has civil law, which was second part. God was giving people rules to manage their lives and how to manage their lives. And then number 3, ceremonial law was the third, showing them patterns for building the tabernacle and regular worship. And then finally, we're going to see the theme of the nation of Israel. God founded the nation of Israel to be the source of truth and salvation to the world. His relationship with his people was loving yet firm. They had no army, no schools, no governors, no mayors or police when they left the nation of Israel. God had to instruct them in their constitutional laws and daily practices. He showed them how to worship and how to have national holidays, and the national holidays that they got to have was the Passover. So that was the introduction on the book of Exodus, and I will see you again starting tomorrow as we tackle one chapter a day. God bless.